Welcome back, everybody, for our next panel. Mobile operators going to content delivery. I'm pleased to welcome our panelists: Elia from MTN Namibia and Botswana, Maureen from Tel1, Catherine from Safaricom, and Alain from Harmonic. And this panel will be moderated by Tamima. Before we actually leave the Tamima to moderate this panel, I will just show a quick video of our sponsor, Harmonic. Over to you, Tamima.
Thank you so much. So once again, I want to thank anyone who's joining the panel for making the time. I hope that for the next few minutes, we are going to deliver a very insightful conversation your way as we delve into mobile operators going into content distribution. So I'm going to introduce my panelists, and I'll ask each panelist to maybe just give us a brief about their role and the kind of services that they're offering at their company. So I'm going to start with you, Elaine, after that video.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry, Elaine.
Oh, yeah.
Go for it, Elaine.
Okay, so I'm Alain Pellen. I am a solution manager for the Harmonic video SaaS platform. And Harmonic is a vendor, so I'm the only vendor here. We are specialized in solutions for video processing and delivery. So it's for streaming, but also for satellite distribution or cable or IPTV.
Okay, thanks for that. Moving on to Elia now.
So MTN Namibia, we're a service provider in Namibia and Botswana, and I'm the CEO.
Brief introduction. Maureen, can you hear me?
Oh, yes, I can hear you. Thanks, my dear. My name is Maureen Chirambagwa. I'm head of marketing and business development with Tel1. We're a fixed network operator, and we provide an IPTV service in Zimbabwe. Thank you.
And finally, Catherine.
I'm Catherine Jari, and work with Safaricom based in Kenya. Senior strategy manager, tasked with guiding the business.
I think we're having a bit of an issue with Catherine's connection, so I'm going to allow her maybe just to sort that. So we're going to kick off this discussion by delving into content distribution strategies.
Business in regards to the direction issue. So Safaricom is a telecommunication company.
Sorry, Catherine, we're having a bit of an issue with your connection. So maybe you might just want to check that briefly. You were freezing for a bit there. So as Catherine is checking that, so we're going to kick off the discussion by delving first into the content distribution strategies that each operator is employing. So maybe if you can give us the characteristics of the kind of OTT services you're currently offering, starting with you, Maureen.
Okay, so for us from Tel1, we're offering a subscription-based OTT service, digital entertainment on demand. It's subscription-based, $3 per month, and we are bundling it with our existing broadband services.
Okay, and Elia, so what are you doing at MTN in Namibia?
We're doing the same. So across the MTN group, we collaborate through the group. We offer the same bundles in collaboration with OTT providers. We also partner with the OTT providers and work together in a whole ecosystem together with MES.
So in your opinion, looking at how things are now, with how a lot of telcos are now going into content distribution, what would you say is the state of video consumption on the continent, Elia?
So I think there's still a huge opportunity because, of course, mobile smartphone penetration is not where it should be. I think we're fortunate in Namibia that it's in the 90s. But in many other countries, we're looking at 20s and 30s and 40s. So the opportunity is still massive to grow that market. But there needs to be a device strategy and education process that needs to go together hand in hand with the whole OTT consumption. Yeah.
So, Alain, I'm curious about your opinion on the state of the video consumption in Africa.
I read the surveys, so what I read recently from a Conviva report, I think in the Q4 2021, I think it was very interesting to show that there was a growth of 50%, 51%, I believe, year over year in Africa. So this is a tremendous growth. So, when you compare that to North America, where it's only 1%, or even Europe, where it's 20%, so it's a huge growth. So I suppose we are just at the beginning of the OTT or the streaming story for Africa. So.
And do you believe that the market is already saturated when it comes to video entertainment, Catherine? Catherine, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. You can hear me well.
What is your opinion in terms of the market and video entertainment? Do you believe it's currently saturated, or there's still a lot more space for growth and opportunities for all players?
I think we've just begun. I think the saturation is more on the international over-the-top providers, but the opportunity is still big. Looking at where we are at, there's still an opportunity to present more of local content, go specific, maybe even to kids, to the youth. The opportunity is big, and more so inward looking in terms of local content. The opportunity is still there, definitely.
Okay, so they say content is king, and so I'm going to start with the telco specifically, just to understand from each of you what your current content distribution strategy is. Are you acquiring? Are you producing in-house? Is it an open platform? So maybe let's start with you, Elia, just to understand what MTN is doing in both Namibia and Botswana.
So we're collaborating in a big way. We're creating our own content. We're also collaborating with content providers. We're creating new industries. As a result, creating opportunities in each country. So we're partnering. We're also collaborating. We're creating ecosystems. We're creating API platforms for various content providers to connect onto our platform and have a common platform to communicate via our network, which is in excess of 300 million subscribers today. So that's what we're doing from our side, yes.
Okay, and Maureen, what's happening in Zimbabwe?
Pretty much the same. We do also take a partnership collaborative approach, especially for OTT international content. But for local content, we're actually creating content. I think the appetite for people to create their own content, be it music, be it videos, is huge in Zimbabwe. So we are partnering with people, empowering the youth and bringing the content to the people. Yeah.
So, Catherine, for Safaricom in Kenya, you have your platform, which is the base platform. So when it comes to the content distribution strategy, so are you acquiring content for this platform? Are you producing content? So what's the specific strategy?
Okay, for us, I just want to get you to understand that our positioning is different because we are a telco, we are in the middle. So we position ourselves as a super aggregator. So yes, there is a platform in the middle. So it enables the entire ecosystem, be it a producer, artist, it enables everybody. So for us, we look at it that way. So we have, of course, the content partnerships that we do. So we have revenue share models. We do have engagement with our local producers. So we ensure that everybody who's within that ecosystem is actually gaining. But for now, we work with both international and local revenue share models, and of course, working with local producers to ensure that there's enough content that is coming through.
So from your experience, what type of content would you say you're seeing the audience having more of an appetite for? Is it local content? Is it international content?
So for us, Base launched last year, May. So it's been a journey, of course, as you can imagine, just like any telco, we are not the experts in content. Again, we enable businesses and we enable the entire ecosystems. So we launched Base last year with the game in mind that we want as many people to come in and put their content there and entertain our audiences. So what we've seen is, of course, your normal genres. So of course, faith-based content is big, drama is big, music is big. So it's in that regard, it's almost normal genres that the audiences like. When we look at our partnerships, the international partnerships that we have done, there's also an appetite for international content. Again, dramas, all that kind of content. Everybody is still wanting to see international content. So they want a mix of both. They want a mix of local and they want a mix of international. So we should be able to provide that, and that is what we are aiming to do with us being a super aggregator and being in the middle to ensure we bring the best of both worlds.
And what makes Base different from what we are seeing other traditional subscription VOD platforms offering?
Well, now for Base, again, going back to the positioning, so we may have started to look like a shop, the shop that aggregates lots of content with regards to short form. Right now, the uniqueness is the short form local content because our goal is to ensure we enable the local industry. So that is what makes it different from that regard. But as we execute our long-term strategy, it is about bringing in as many people to come into this big marketplace and offer as many, entertainment services or content inside that platform. And then we as Safaricom, what is unique is that we'll be able to offer the payment aspect of it, to be able to offer the data aspect of it. That is what in the long term will make us different. But right now, we position ourselves as that place you go into as for local content, short format. It's a mobile fast sort of video on demand service. So that's what makes us unique.
So obviously Safaricom has a very huge and strong customer base in Kenya. So what have subscriptions been like on the Base platform? And also, additionally to that, now with the different producers and partners that you work with when it comes to aggregating the content, so are you doing rev shares? Are you doing straight up acquisition in terms of accessing the content?
Well, it's again, having started in May, not yet 1 year. It's been modest. We must say it's modest numbers for now, with the potential for growth. Our engagement in terms of partnerships is we partner with, we do revenue share. Right now it's 100% revenue share. And on some cases, on a case by case conversation around sponsorship. So it's more revenue share.
Okay.
Yes.
So Elia, maybe just to understand Oxygen a bit better. So that's also an open platform that's aggregating content. So could you maybe just give us a bit of some background in terms of how all the content is placed together on the platform?
Yeah, so we have a content delivery platform, a SDP, that all our partners can collaborate with one another and with ourselves. We're ultimately the delivery engine. However, we are also the application provider. We provide a platform for the APIs to connect to whatever platform that they may have on their side to deliver the content. And just like with Catherine, we have different models. It's a revenue share. It could be a collaboration. We also have, award ceremonies where we actually invite people to develop apps and to, provide content. And we may even look at co-investing with them on content on the businesses that they're trying to set up. So there's a whole ecosystem that we've developed. We believe that working with the community is the way to go. No longer taking the stance of a telco and then an OTT provider. We want to see that ecosystem being one. So that's the approach that we've taken, Tamima.
Okay, and in terms of your audiences, what's the profile of the audience that's available for you?
There's a large portion that's youth. So, youth is a huge focus for us in Africa. We have a lot of programs focused specifically on youth. We call it Pulse. It's starting to take form. It's been around for a long time now. But, you know, the biggest consumers across the African continent are the youth sector.
Okay, super. So, Maureen, maybe just to understand what you're doing over in Zimbabwe. So, your content strategy, is it mostly local, or are you working with acquired international content? Maybe just give us a bit more information on that.
Okay, so it's really a balancing act. We want to address what people want. So people do still have an appetite for international content, which we don't acquire. We simply partner with our partner Diod. But we've noticed a trend in terms of the success story for Tel1, which is a fixed operator, is the local content. So we've actually gone all out to develop strategies on how we can actually acquire or sponsor and have local players, especially musicians, the short dramas, and actually get to acquire and empower our youth and our artists to actually produce this content and put it onto our platform. So that has been our biggest success story.
So you've had specific success with music and live streaming, for instance. And maybe that gives us an insight into who your audience is, but could you maybe break that down for us in terms of your subscription base and by and large from the larger population, what your audience profile is?
Okay, so I think similar to what everyone has been discussing, the target market is really the youth. So the bulk of the people who listen or actually consume our content is the youth. So you'd see when we are concentrating on local content, it's mainly music. And we've been live streaming. We've got what we dub the on-the-roof concerts, which are done more or less monthly. So we've got hip hop, you know, local artists who are thriving in Zimbabwe. They come through and we live stream events. We get huge following from the youth. And by youth, by definition, is probably your teens to as maybe 30, 35. That's pretty much the target market that actually consume that data. And that strategy for us has been working very, very well. And I think one thing that I need to highlight is we are a fixed network operator. So we're able not only to produce local content, but also to actually partner with a sister company, Net1, which is a mobile operator, so that we just increase the number of eyeballs who actually watch our content.
Okay, so you had success with live streaming, specifically for music. Any experience with linear channels, or are you just working with long and short form content?
We did start off, I think, with linear channels when we started. We've had this product, I think, for the past 3 years. And when we introduced the linear, there were options and packages. And what we noticed is that the Zimbabwean market is very price sensitive, and people have got options of content that they can access for free instead of paying. So we actually moved away from the linear and we adopted a subscription-based eat all you can chew kind of bundle, where we feel at least if we give them at a cheaper price, they are able to consume it.
Okay, so yeah. I think when it comes to content, maybe Catherine, before we move on, just trying to understand also now on your platform, what seems to be having more traction? Is it long form content, short form content?
I mentioned base for now is it's a mobile first. We've taken a mobile first strategy for now because that's where our biggest base is. So it's more on short form sort of content that people can chew as you know as when they're on the move. So it's our focus is purely on short format.
Okay, super. And obviously for Safaricom as well, you have the other product Skiza. So are you combining now that on base, and what has been the uptake with music, particularly on the platform?
So Skiza for us, we consider that as traditional business because it's a pure ringtone sort of business. So we are transitioning from traditional to digital. So on the music side, where we have base video, we also have base music. So we are trying to transition our consumers from the traditional way of consuming content into the digital way. So that is catered for under base music. And there's a way we've packaged it in such a way that even the ringtones and the videos are all incorporated on base music.
Okay, so what were the specific benefits for you now in terms of bringing video and mobile activities together? Were there any specific difficulties in terms of maybe data, billing, brand awareness?
Well, for us, and I think it's across for everyone in Africa. Well, I mean, over the top and streaming services, yes, it's out there. Everybody may know about it, but for Africa, I think it's a different story altogether, because we have different hindrances or challenges that we face. So of course, smartphone penetration, maybe our customers don't have the right smartphone devices to consume the content. And we as a telco, of course, come in and ensure that we are providing devices and seeding them into the market. We have our Nipa Mdogo Mdogo, where we have our customers, purchase a device so that they're able to pay for it in small bits and pieces. So it's about making sure that they have the right devices. Then of course, customer education is a big one as well. Educating customers what is on demand, how to make it a lifestyle for them. And then the big one, of course, is price. I think Maureen has mentioned Africa. Price sensitive, people don't want to pay for content. You have YouTube, which is giving customers free. So you have this conversation around, is it free or having our customers pay? So that is a big hindrance. So we found a way, of course, of making sure that we remove that barrier by having bundled propositions. So we bundle subscription together with data so that you're able to have your customers enjoy whatever it is they are watching without having to worry in terms of consuming.
Okay. Maybe now over to you, Elia. Now talking about business models. So what strategies are working for you? Are you doing AVOD, SVOD? And in terms of, again, looking at the fact that you're an aggregator, what would you say has been the biggest learning point?
I think the biggest learning for us is, of course, the penetration of smartphones within the countries is important. We have a responsibility. Our main focus and the thread that runs through our team is that everybody deserves the benefit of a modern connected life, and we need to enable that. At the end of the day, it's not just about ticking the box around revenue. We need to also empower local content and empower people within the regions, to utilize our platform and to move forward and grow, and take people along with them. Our biggest learning has been, it's an education process. You need to educate people. You can't just release a product out into every market and one brush paints all. That's not the case. Every market is very different and very unique, and their needs and requirements and maturity levels are different in each country as well.
Thank you for that, Elia. So, Alain, to you now, as we're talking about monetization, perhaps what are some of the real opportunities that are available to telcos and other players in terms of software as a service?
Yes, so I suppose that now, it's very easy technically to deploy a video service. You don't even need a video infrastructure. You can just use a SaaS solution. So it runs in the cloud, and you don't have to deploy any piece of coax or any piece of equipment on your network. And you can just deploy a service. So if you get a content that has a very large audience, such as for example a premium sport event, for example, which is also very easy to deploy with a cloud. You just deploy the infrastructure for the duration of the competition, for example. Then, if you have the audience, you can actually generate a advertisement inventory that you can probably sell as a targeted. So that it gets a higher value for the advertiser, because if the advertiser knows that his advertisement will be displayed in front of someone who is interested in buying a bike or whatever, then of course it has more value than if it's being watched by anyone with no particular interest. So it's one way to increase your revenue, advertisement, but obviously you need a sizable audience to make it sensible, I think. So it's the first thing is to work on the audience, and then to work on the monetization.
Okay. And on monetization, maybe Maureen, could you maybe give us some insight into some of the opportunities you've seen with advertising?
Okay. For us, we solely believe that advertising is a key monetization tool when it comes to content. We've noticed that with our live streamed musical events for local content, we're able to get local corporates to actually come on board and advertise on each and every one of those that we run monthly. So for us, that's actually a very lucrative revenue stream that we're exploring from an advertising perspective. Yeah.
What about you, Elia, in Namibia and Botswana? What kind of experiences are you having with advertisers on your platform?
So we have an advertising platform that we've deployed. It's slow. Again, the adoption is it's picking up, but at a very slow pace. It's still very new at the moment in the country.
Okay, Catherine, your experience with advertising?
So for now, from an aspect of video advertising, we've not kicked off as yet, but it's something that is on our roadmap without a doubt. Because again, customers don't want to pay for content, so find ways, different ways of monetizing content. So it will come up as we move on.
Okay. So as we're talking about content distribution, and I think earlier on when we were talking about the various content strategies that are being employed, would you say that now when it comes to VOD that live is more important? And in the context of live, so would you say that audiences now, would you say that it is important that any service or any product that you put out must have a live component? Let's start with you, Maureen.
I think obviously there's a lot of excitement around live, be it live shows where we have artists coming through, Zimbabwean artists, even artists from the region. So if it's live, there's that excitement. So you're likely to get more people to come on board. It's more terrific with local sports. So if it's a live event, people get it on your platform. If you can get it exclusive, the better. But I wouldn't totally say that you go 100% live. There's still a lot of demand for shows that have been pre-recorded that people still want to access. So you need to come up with some form of balance.
Okay. And Alain, are there better solutions available in terms of how to ensure that the user experience is being heightened and customized as much as possible?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
So I'm talking about...
can you repeat, please?
If you could give us a bit more insight into perhaps what is available to customize the user experience in terms of live.
Oh, yes. So now with SaaS solutions, it becomes possible to actually switch the content, for example, for depending on the rights that you own. It's absolutely possible to create even a different channel for each individual user. Technically it is possible. Does it make sense from a marketing standpoint? I am not sure, but the technology allows to change the content. Maybe if you have some blackout things to manage, for example, you can replace a football game by a file video in some areas of the market, and when it comes to the advertisement, you can change the advertisement for each end user. So it gives again more value for the advertisers. So it's something that you can do. You can deliver a content that means more for the end user, and so the user experience is better because of the content matters more for the end user. In fact, and that's something that you can do even with, if you have a catalog of VOD content, for example, you can repurpose this catalog of VOD content by generating a new linear channel that, with some thematics without re-encoding or reprocessing the content. You just have to, play the different files one after the other. So those are, there are new possibilities now with the cloud to actually generate new thematic, kind of thematic channels, if you're not talking live, So that's the way we can maybe, customize the content more for the end user.
Okay. So Catherine, earlier on you were telling us about the fact that you've been able to build very strong networks with content providers. So maybe you can give us a bit more insight into some of the options that are available when you're collaborating with the various content providers, and also how you're handling things like billing systems.
Just say that again, the final question.
How you're handling billing systems.
Okay. So there are different ways in terms of how Safaricom works with different content providers. So you can come through to us direct, or we have appointed a couple of content providers who then aggregate the content on our behalf and then bring it to Safaricom. So there are two ways. You can come to us, or you can go through the different content providers that we have. That allows us to be able to aggregate as much as possible. With regards to how we bill, and if that one is more, if it's well, I'm not sure whether you mean how we bill our customers or how we bill in terms of partnerships. I don't know. Just so that
maybe the carrier billing, and also maybe you can give us some insights into maybe how you're bundling subscriptions with data plans as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Of course, we have both options. We have the airtime billing aspect, and that is the one that gives you the recurring effect, so that when a customer subscribes, then they can have, the money deducted automatically, and they don't have to, they don't have to subscribe every other time. So that, of course, is a key factor and success factor for any on-demand business. So we do that. And then, of course, we have the bundled propositions. So where we have our subscription bundled with our data, but also you have the option of just, simply buying a subscription, but we also have these bundled propositions. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. And maybe over to you, Elia, just to understand the role and importance of partnerships. So how have these been key in terms of rolling out your services?
Sorry, say that again. You're breaking up, Tamima.
Sorry, maybe just give us some insight into the role of partnerships in terms of you being able to deliver a product and at the same time being able to sustain access to content that is relevant to your audiences.
Yeah, so we're not a content provider as such. We're moving into that area. So it's still, it's still very new to us. It's just been a couple of years. So partnership with regards to production houses, people that actually, understand that side of the market, and working in collaboration with them and providing the transport and delivery platform for their content is what we bring to the party, as well as co-investing where possible, and also collaborating, with the global partnerships we do have, bringing those to the African continent, and allowing local content providers to have access to the more international, the bigger players around the world. That's the role that we play on the partnership side.
Okay. And what is the current state of your broadband infrastructure to deliver the content? So
in Namibia specifically, broadband penetration is very high. It's at 110%. So, the country is small, there's 2.6 million people. So, the broadband penetration is very good at the moment.
And is this currently an asset for video?
Yes, it is, because more people have access to communication, more people can access the content. Again, I come back to the fact that the smartphone penetration, from the regulator's perspective, they've indicated it's in the 90s. I don't think it's a clear indication that everybody has a smartphone. I think the situation is that people have got more than one device, which obviously pushes up the numbers. So they're looking at number of devices, not number of people. So I think there's still a huge opportunity. The reality, I think, for Namibia is that we're in the 40s, not in the 90s. And as a result, there's more opportunity for us.
Okay. And maybe over to you, Maureen, just to understand what the state of broadband infrastructures are like in Zimbabwe for you.
Okay, so for Zimbabwe, in terms of mobile penetration, internet, it's, well, from a regulator perspective, is around 95%. In terms of smartphones, truthfully, I think we're between 55 and 60%. So you would see that most operators actually have bundles or packages where we actually try and empower people to also purchase a device so that they're able to access our content. So for me, it's a positive positive in that there's huge appetite for broadband and internet use, and getting into content for us as an operator just gives people a lot of education and options in terms of, so when you have the data, what can you use it for?
Okay, and Catherine, maybe just to understand what the infrastructure is like in Kenya.
Well, for Kenya, of course, we still do have customers who are still on 2G and we're trying to migrate it onto 3G and 4G. So the potential is there. We are migrating most customers, of course, 2G, then go to 3G and 4G. We are still trying to get as many customers on board so that we are able to have customers using as much internet as possible. Of course, we know the hindrance is the cost of data, but customers are using almost at 100% using data one way or another. It's just how heavy in terms of usage they are taking up.
And in your opinion, maybe what has been the impact of COVID?
Well, for us, when COVID kicked off, that was in 2020, there was an upside. I think telcos were, the ones who took the good chunk of the good part of the business. For us, it worked because then it meant more people were at home. Especially at home, we got to very many customers coming on board, subscribing and taking up the home package because it's unlimited. Same case to mobile data as well. We saw an increase because then there was education still going on. Our students were still trying to do online teaching was happening. So for us, it was an upside on the data side because it's a real use case. So it's pretty much has sustained, but not to the same level as it was in 2020, of course. People have now gone back to the office, so it's not as the same as it was in 2020. It's giving so much detail on the numbers.
Okay. Is that pretty much the same for you in Zimbabwe, Maureen, as well, the impact of COVID? Or do you have anything you'd want to add?
Pretty much the same, but I think whilst yes, people have gotten back to the offices, what we have noticed from a trend perspective is now we've got products such as, we still have work from home bundles, we've got student packages for broadband. And for me, I think the other major highlight for the COVID era was to say people were bored at home. So it made content and entertainment relevant. So I feel for our products, it became more real in your face. People were bored and they needed something to do.
Okay. And maybe earlier, as we were talking about rolling out some of these platforms, could you maybe give us some insight into perhaps what could be the fastest ways to roll out?
So I think it's about the distribution network. So it's about coverage. It's about network sharing, both passive and active, from a collaboration perspective with all the transport companies within the country. So being able to get out to everybody within the within the country would be the number one priority. And the only way to do that is to work in conjunction with one another. We're having challenges in Namibia at the moment in rolling out infrastructure on a network sharing basis. Our network is an open access network that we've already done a national roaming agreement with one of the providers. But by doing that, you can then take the funds that you were going to duplicate infrastructure and build out to other areas jointly together, because ultimately, to reach everybody may not be a business savvy thing to do, but jointly together, you would be able to see the benefit of rolling out infrastructure to all parts of the country. So the distribution network and the rollout thereof and the increasing of the coverage on a 4G basis needs to be in collaboration with all these service providers in the country rather than trying to do it on your own.
Okay, and then over to you, Alain. Now we've had the importance of live. We've had about the relevance of content such as music and sports content as well. So you've had some experience with operators in other parts of the world, specifically Indonesia. Maybe if you could give us a brief summary of some of the best ways to deploy an OTT solution quickly.
Yes, so this is an example in Indonesia. One customer is a mobile telco in Indonesia. and actually used the premium video. Actually, it was the content of the last World Cup. He used that to actually help, migrating some of the subscribers to a 4G network or to a premium data plan. And so for those subscribers that would be eligible for this new premium data plan, they would deliver the game of the World Cup for free. And so that was, they were not trying to sell the content. Of course, they had to buy the rights, but so they were not trying to sell the video content to their subscribers, but they were actually using the premium video content to migrate their subscribers to whatever they wanted them to migrate to. And so that, I think that was a kind of interesting, and they did that in just 4 weeks or 5 weeks. So I think in 5 weeks they were able to actually set up, because it is in an infrastructure in the cloud, so they did not deploy anything on their network, and so they were able to migrate. I think it was like up to 4 million people. I think so. It's a large population country, of course. So I think that's a very interesting approach to where you can see that very premium video content, like. Very soon there will be the World Cup, the new World Cup in November. They can be used to to support the migration on the network. I think that's kind of interesting.
Okay, so I understand our time is almost up. So in summary, as we wind up, perhaps hearing from each of you about some of the opportunities that you see in this particular sector over the next couple of years. Starting with you, Catherine. Catherine, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. So for us, it's more about the opportunities we see is around working a bit more with the content industry and more partnerships to ensure that we make content as a success and everybody is benefiting at the end of the day in terms of anyone involved in the ecosystem. So for us, that's our focus.
And Maureen, your insights into some of the innovations that you expect in the next couple of years?
For me, I consider that we need to look at AVOD. I think there's a lot of potential. I see some of the people are still starting out, but we need to look out for what we can do on an advertising perspective so that this whole content business makes sense. It's a win-win situation for clients as well as the business.
Elia, your thoughts on opportunities?
I agree with what the colleagues are saying. And I think the opportunity is to, provide every individual within the country with the ability to access information and decide for themselves the progress from their perspective on how they want to progress as an individual. We need to be providing the platforms for them to do that and be responsible operators and allow them to decide on their progress rather than we determine their progress by limiting the access and the information that they are able to consume.
Okay, and finally, Elaine, as we wind up, opportunities and innovations for the next couple of years.
Yes. So what we see, the worldwide, I would say, is a big drive for live events, for premium sports or concerts or these kind of things. There is a lot of demand for that, and so there are a lot of innovation around live events, with multi-cameras or a group of people watching together an event or these kind of things. And there is the other innovation, which is a sort of in the background, that's we are working on all the time, is to reduce the bit rates. We've not talked about that, but it's a fundamental. I think it's to reduce the video bit rate, as low as possible and provide a good video quality. And so we have innovated, and we are continuing to innovate on this topic all the time.
Okay. Thank you so much to all our panelists for making the time today, and to everyone who joined us for the panel. I do hope that we earned the pleasure of your time. Well, that's it from us. Over to you, Shana.
Thank you.